Hey everybody. This week's episode of the R&R Show is brought to you by Arcane Wonders. And hello everyone. Welcome. Rahdo, how are you today?
I'm doing very fine. I wish you had told me you were going to desaturate your image for our special horror-themed episode, because I would have done the same. I'm all bright and colorful, and you're all spooky and moody. You're a regular Buell, as you say.
Boo L. Yes,
Yeah.
Boo L, everyone. Welcome, friends. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Ruel Gabriel. This is Rahdo, and this is the R&R Show, where we talk about games and more every week live here on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. So welcome, everybody. Again, always, it's so nice to see everyone from around the world hanging out with us today. And Boo L, as Rahdo said. Boo, boo, boo. What? Trying to get into the spirit of things. So, again, welcome. So what's happening, my friend?
Well, I mean, there's no time to waste. I think we just need to jump right into giving away some stuff, some free stuff.
Always happy to see that.
Right.
Yeah,
so what was it?
it
was 2 weeks. This is last week's. We are giving away from Arcane Wonders a copy of that game right there, Picture Perfect, which is an excellent, charming little party style game, all about arranging people for the perfect picture and then actually taking that picture and scoring points. And we are also, and that's going to folks in the United States or Canada, and for everybody else in the world, they are competing to get another copy of Korra: Rise of an Empire. I have realized now, as I'm pointing at these, I should have just grabbed these boxes and actually been able to show them to you like this. That would have been the smart way to go.
But
we're
we fly by the seat of our pants here. Yeah, it's all good.
Let me just go on ahead and bring up the wheel of names and let's start rolling. All right. These are the Canada, North America folks hoping to win Picture Perfect from Arcane Wonders, sponsor of the show. And let's go.
Whee! Good luck, everybody.
And it's definitely sped up this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy about that. But anyway, who's it going to be? Aaron Schmidtkins.
Aaron.
Congratulations, Aaron Schmidtkins.
Congrats,
it's
Aaron.
Interesting. I don't know if you can see on my screen, because I've got the wheel full screen. It's actually a real wheel. I could actually see it crossing over to his name, and Aaron is the winner. Aaron, I'll be contacting you later this afternoon after the show, but we're not done, folks. That's just the beginning. Let me go on ahead and share my second screen. The Ninja Name Picker will be back. Let's see here. So I need to stop sharing the wheel of names, and I need to start sharing the Ninja Chrome tabs. Ninja. Where'd it go? Wheel of names, StreamYard. Ninja name. Oh, there it is. Okay. Ninja Name Picker. Phew. Okay. So, did you know, by the way, Ruel, when I was collating these lists and getting rid of duplicates and making sure I wasn't accidentally posting people's email addresses publicly, there are of the two makeup, because we've got one which is for North America, or basically North America, Canada, and US, and the other one's for every place else in the world. 60% of the overall tally is the rest of the world. So we are truly international, which I know you love.
I do love that. I think that's so cool that, again, just seeing everyone from around the world joining us today. Thank you. I see Portugal's in the house, the UK. We caught a bunch of people in the US, of course. So again, it's just so nice to see that. And nothing beats getting a free game, right?
Right. Well, let's give one away. Boom.
All right, let's do this.
Here comes the Ninja.
Good luck, everybody.
And the Ninja picks Stefan.
All right.
I don't know if his last name is literally Stefan, but that's just what if you get an email from Stefan, that's what it'll say it came from. Stefan, or
yes.
I'm just going to call you Stefan. No, I'm going to call you Stefanos. That's more fun.
Stefanos, yeah. Congrats, Stefanos.
Yep, we'll be contacting you later on today to get your details so we can get a copy of Korra in the mail. Congratulations, everybody.
Well done. Yeah, enjoy those games, and you will be getting those emails shortly, friends. But we're not done giving away games, are we?
Nope. Because, hey, I've got something on my table. Well, why don't you ask me? What's on my table?
Hey, Rahdo, what's on your table?
It's Onitama, a game that I know you love. You love this game.
I really enjoy this game. This is a favorite with my family. Michelle and I really got into this game a few years ago. It's a simple, straightforward abstract game, and as you can see, as you're showing the
I'm just
bits
going to
here,
play while you talk about it because you're the one who loves it so much.
yeah.
Right.
So think of chess, friends, but it's really distilled down to just a couple of moves, and these moves can be different each game. You're going to select randomly a couple of cards for each player, and as you select a piece to move, you move it according to the card that you see there. And then you take that card and put it in the middle because the other player will eventually get that card into their hand. So it's a nice like back and forth. And what you're trying to do, just like chess, you're trying to capture the main piece, which I believe is a monk. Is that correct?
I remember, I believe the little pieces are called the students, and the big piece is called the master.
The master, that's right.
Yep.
So there's two ways to win. You're either capturing the opponent's master, or you're getting your master to the other side, where their master is on that final row. And it's a really quick 15-20 minute back and forth game. As you can see there, you play a card, you move the piece according to that and to the little shape there. And then you're trying to capture pieces and get over to the other side, or capture
cross to the other side, or take out the opponent's master. And it's so clever because okay, I'm in this move, and I can see these define what I can do with my pieces, but I know what you can do in response.
Yep.
So I know that I can move in because you can't respond to me because you can't move and take my piece. But then once I use this piece, I am giving you this card because eventually you'll get that card. So I can be thinking about what can you do immediately, but also what you'll be able to do later. It's really clever. And it came out in 2014, hugely popular. It's already gotten 2 nice expansions, but we're not done talking about it because there's also Light and Shadow.
Yes.
Which I just got in the mail the other day, and it is very cool. Let me go ahead and switch to another angle of the game.
I love it.
Because when you set up, you have your master. You only have 2 students on the board because you have additional characters running around, and you hide them behind a screen. There are now ninjas in the game. And what you do is you have these ninjas. You start them. Let's see. Do I need to change that camera a bit? There we go. So if you are the ninja player, I'm sorry, I got it mixed up. You don't have any pieces on the screen. You've just got 2 ninjas that are skulking around in shadows, taking out the opponents, because you still move the same way. Hey, this ninja, okay, I'll have him move up here. I'll change this card out. And I'm trying to get them ninjas to take your pieces out. You're trying to find my pieces. And the interesting thing is, if you do maneuver in such a way that you take one of my pieces and you're getting closer to winning, your ninja's on the board. And suddenly I know where you are. And so you have to be very, very careful when you strike. You have to be sure that, okay, when I strike, I can't go. But then once you're back off the screen, we knew where you were. We know how you could potentially move. And one of the things that the non-ninja player, they have these little lanterns, which are very cool. And by the way, these ninjas are super cool as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can use these to say, okay, ninja, are you in this row? And they have to say if they're in that row. Or do you have any ninjas in that column? You get to do it twice to try and hunt down these ninjas. That's one way to play. The other way to play is each player has a screen, and each player has their own ninja that's moving around in addition to everything else. And you use the lanterns, or actually, I think you still use the ninjas. You can still use the lanterns to try to find, but we both have ninjas that are jumping around on the board at the same time that we are trying to do all the regular stuff of maneuvering. So 2 different ways to play, one of light and one of shadow. And it's really, really cool. I mean, it really takes this game to the next level.
That's awesome. I have not played that expansion yet. I've only played the base game, but I love that whole, hidden movement thing, element to it. That is neat.
Completely redefines it in 2 different ways, the light and the shadow way. And folks, we mention all this because we're giving away copies of Onitama plus Light and Shadow. That's going to be the next contest for next week. Hooray!
All right. And how are we going to give this away?
Well, let me tell you, Ruel, what's going to happen is at some point during this episode, when we're counting down our top 10 favorite horror games combined, we will drop very casually a secret word. And if we can sneak it past our opponent, which is to say, this is a competitive video show, folks. We're trying to win. And right now I'm losing. I mean, I think Ruel is 2 up on me. He's beaten me twice over the last couple of weeks.
It's close. Yeah, it's very close.
So when one of us can sneak the secret word past the other one, and say, "Yeah, you lose," or I lose more than likely, we will then tell you what to do. You're basically gonna have to send an email with that secret word. So how do you enter to win Onitama plus Light and Shadow? You watch this episode, you enjoy our wacky hijinks, and you wait for the secret word, and we'll tell you what to do then. Whew.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So this show is nothing but wacky hijinks, friends. Thank you again for joining us. I do want to shout out Corthane over there on Twitch. They said that they love Onitama, and they bring it to restaurants a lot and actually play it there. And, people see it. It reminds them of chess, and they have gotten people into the game just by bringing it to the restaurant. I love stories like that. I've done the same thing with this, bringing to our local gaming meetups where, people who are new to gaming, you put Onitama out there. It's very, very easy to get into. So it's a terrific game for that purpose. So
can I ask you a question, though? You know this game a lot better than me. And I looked online, and it seems like nobody knows the answer to this, and it's driving me nuts. The cards you're getting, that represent all these different moves you can do, they either have blue or red or grayish brown squares. What do those mean? I've looked at the rule book. It doesn't say anything about it. It's not like it's... And you didn't... Well, you're colorblind, of course, so you maybe didn't even notice.
Yeah.
There are threads devoted to this on Board Game Geek. People arguing, like scholars poring over the Talmud, trying to figure out what do these colors mean, because it doesn't say in the rule book.
I thought so. There's a gray as well. I thought it was just the two different. Okay.
Nope. There's yeah. Well, I mean, there's the icons. The icons in the corner tell you whether it's the red or the blue player who goes first.
But
there's different colors.
That's what I thought it was.
Too. It's very mysterious. If anybody somebody says it's to decide who goes first, but that's
what
the
I
color
thought
in the
was.
Corner. That's not the colors on the pieces. So
interesting.
It's a mystery. There's mysteries woven into this game, folks. Apparently, but watch for the secret word, and then come back next week. We will announce a winner. But I don't know. Otherwise, I think we are ready to start counting down because it is the Halloween season.
There it is. So
yes.
Oh, that question you just asked is going to haunt me for the rest of the day. So thanks a lot for that.
What it seemed like the most common guess is that at a glance, red cards tend to favor going to the rightwards movement, and the blue cards tend to favor a leftward movement, and the gray cards tend to be equal on both sides. Like you can see this red. It's saying, hey, you can move forward on the right, whereas this blue says, well, if you want to move forward, it's going to be on the left. That seems to be the prevailing notion.
That makes sense.
Because you can be thinking, right, because, I mean, when you're playing this game, you're thinking, well, on the next turn, when I get this card, it's going to be this way, I got to remember. So it's maybe just a quick visual way to be able to say, okay, I know if I want to push forward on the right, I want to get red cards. Maybe.
Yeah. That's funny that it's so subtle. Like I didn't even notice it. So that's
most people don't. I hadn't noticed it, and then I was just setting it up this morning, and I was wait a minute, have those always been there? What does this mean? And I thought maybe it's supposed to mean that the blue player gets 2 blues and the red player gets 2 reds, but it's nothing like that. It's just a mystery.
Yeah.
Just a mystery.
So interesting. Just real quick, I do want to shout out the poll that you set up in YouTube. This is really interesting.
How's it going?
Poll. The best horror film, the top 4 are Alien, Get Out, It, and The Shining, and so far, over half the people have voted for Alien. Really interesting. And, it's, for me, it was either Alien or The Shining. Those 2 movies creeped me out. But
because you're old.
Because I'm old and check this out. I have not seen Get Out yet. Can you believe that?
It's so good. It's so good. And honestly, I've seen all these movies more than once, and if I were to sit down and watch one right now, I would want to watch Get Out again because I think it's got. Although, man, The Shining has so much going on in it as well. Of course, Alien is great, but I've seen Alien 5,000 times. I feel like. Plus, if I watch Alien, I'm just wanting to watch Aliens when it boils right down to it.
I know, right? Yeah, no, you're so.
And I mostly just like the first 5 minutes, which are some of the creepiest moments ever put to cinema, and then the rest of the movie I can skip. The rest of the movie I can skip it.
Like I love the book back in the day. But the movie, the TV versions, all that, I just wasn't really into it as much as I thought I would.
Yeah.
Okay, so the perfect segue into our top 10 list today, friends.
Yes.
The top 10 horror games, and shall I start things off, my friend?
Sure. Okay, yeah, because I have to admit, I totally forgot. Which means I'm gonna have the number 1 slot, the number 3 slot, the number 5 slot, the number 7 slot, and the number 9 slot. Yes, you go first. By the way, before I can ask, how did you make your list? There's a lot of ways you could go. What I ultimately decided to do, I went on Board Game Geek. I said, okay, everything that's flagged as horror, let me know. And then I started going through, and there were a bunch of games I could have mentioned that are kind of silly or have cartoony artwork. And actually, probably the majority of horror games that go over well in my household, they need that cartoony presentation for my wife, who does not like horror stuff at all. But I thought, nope, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to go for real horror stuff. And so I've got 5 games that I think or that play it straight, that are all genuinely creepy. And yet somehow my wife enjoys them in spite of her absolute hatred of all things.
Interesting.
Horror.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about you?
I the approach I took, just immediately I thought of, okay, what are the best horror game experiences I've had at the tabletop? And that includes my gaming group, and then my family and other friends. And, I did look on BGG, and then the games that I looked at, there's a lot that lined up with, yes, there are some really silly ones. And I had those on my list, but I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to go a little more scarier as well.
Okay.
But that being said, I do have some silliness to share. And
knowing you, I felt it was impossible that there would not be. In fact, I mean, I could almost say with 100% assuredness one of your entries.
And it's probably this one. My number 10 is Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
No, that was not the one. Although if I thought about it, I should have said that one as well. Let's go on ahead and take a looky-loo. Board Game Geek Betrayal.
Yes.
All right. House on the Hill. Is that the classic? Is that the new legacy one?
The classic. Because I have unfortunately not been able to play the classic yet. The legacy yet. There it is right there. This one, this is probably the first modern horror game that I played when I got into the hobby back in 2015. Okay. And it's, let's just be honest, it's a big sloppy mess. It really is. There's so many, there's all kinds of errata. There's, it's dice chucking, it's tile placement. I mean, but you know what? It's so thematic and it's so fun for new gamers. And like myself at the time, back in 2015 or 2016 when I played it, I had the best time ever. It was, we're all there. It's semi-cooperative, right? You start in the first half of the game. You're exploring this haunted house, trying to get items, and then omens start showing up. Bad things are happening. And there's that point.
And at this point, it's a cooperative game, basically. At the beginning of the game.
Yes.
We're all here, Scooby-Doo's and the gang style, to investigate a mysterious house on the hill.
Yeah. And then there's that certain point where there's too many omens or whatever. Then you go to the quote-unquote haunt portion of the game, where things go unravel real quickly. One person becomes a traitor, and
they get their own special book of rules.
Yes, so the game changes for them and for the rest of the survivors, different win conditions, and that's when it gets really messy because some scenarios are way more powerful for one side than the other, and vice versa. And there's all kinds of rules hiccups in the rule book that's not really that well thought out, but it's a lot of fun. It's just thematically, I mean, come on. Like you said, Scooby-Doo, you're out there trying to, get these items to fend off whoever's turned traitor, and you either try to kill them or escape them or whatever. I have a lot of fun with this game. Now, that being said, I understand its faults and it's a lot of dice chucking and there's going to be random elements. But you know what? For like an hour or so, why not play Betrayal at the House on the Hill? That's my number 10, top 10 horror game.
I agree. I tried playing this once as a 2-player game with Jen, which is wrong. It's 3-player minimum game. I just wanted to experience it, and I could see how cool it must be. The interesting thing is, as I was scrolling through images on Board Game Geek, the majority of them weren't just pictures of the game, but pictures of people playing the game.
Right.
And I think that says a lot. You don't often see that on Board Game Geek pictures, but this is the game as much about everybody else around the table, and somebody's going, oh my gosh, I'm actually haunted by Edgar Allan Poe, or I'm actually a space alien, or everybody's out to kill me, or whatever it might be. And that you get that halfway point, and was it like 50 different special storylines? So it's always been a cool idea. And if you really want, there's a legacy version of it that came out a few years ago that seems very, very even cooler.
Yeah, all right. I've heard nothing but great things about the legacy version. And that one, it's really neat because you're playing over generations, right? Your family and friends, generations, and the haunts that you do earlier in the game will definitely come back into play during the latter part of the game. So yeah, that's my number 10. That's Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
I imagine there are plenty of people who would agree with that. Yes. I mean, the chat's actually talking about it. Oh, hey. Robert Geislinger of Arcane Wonders has actually arrived in the chat just now. He's over there on Facebook. Robert, sorry, we're going to interrupt the top 10 for a second. Robert, what does it mean that on Oni Thomas, some of the cards have red squares, some have blue squares, and some have brown squares? It's the great mystery of the game. Let us know, Robert.
Yeah, we spent way too much time talking about
that.
Yes,
we did. We got to get back to the list now.
About it.
But Robert will fill everybody in on that.
Yes,
hey, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, we're moving on to my number 9, which, interestingly, I was actually really surprised. It is not classified as a horror game on Board Game Geek. And I don't care, because it definitely is. It's Time Stories.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, actually, I'm just going to do a Rahdo. I'm going to put my run through of it. Rahdo Time Stories, rather than just static images. So this is a game where we are all time travelers from the future who have jumped back in time to make right what once went wrong. It's basically Quantum Leap, the board game, for all intents and purposes, which I love in and of itself. And it's also Groundhog Day, the board game, because the whole notion of this game is you go back, you're exploring, 1980s America, or Spain in the 1500s, or whatever it might be, and you're going on adventures. You are slowly discovering what has messed up in the timeline and how are you actually going to solve the problem. But eventually you'll realize, we run out of time. We have to go back to the future. And so you repeat everything you just did. But now the second time you do a time run, it's like you almost have a cheat code. You can fast forward. You know the things to avoid. Don't go into that closet. There's a monster, whatever it might be. And you can zip. And Jen, I love the structure of this game. And the reason it's on my list is, and I don't understand why it's not labeled appropriately on Board Game Geek, it is totally horror game. The first module that comes in the base box is a super dark, very, very creepy game where you jump into basically homicidal killers in an insane asylum. And you're having to deal with all these truly creepy people. And the longer you stay in there, you start finding out there's strange occult goings on and all of that. And you get to the end and you find out what's behind it all. And then that just is the first of many, many adventures. The second one, you go into like 1987, and it's a zombie apocalypse. So there's tons and tons of horror stuff. Yeah. And the thing that's most brilliant, that makes me love Time Stories above all else, and it really accentuates the horror, is when we get to a given area, players split up. I say, okay, I'm going to go check out that car. You go talk to that person who's in danger, or whatever it might be. And everybody looks at their own card. You flip the card over and you see what it is. Nobody else gets to see it. And and you deal with it, you say, whoa, well, that's a problem. Oh, that's scary. Or, I have to make a tough choice, or I have to fight a zombie, or whatever it might be. When you're done, you put the card back down, and nobody else gets to see that. You have to explain what happened. You have to literally tell a story to your teammates. And that makes you, implicitly part of the drama, especially when you get to the scary stuff. Because sometimes you'll see these cards, and they can be really haunting and disturbing things. And you're like, oh, yeah. I didn't even know how to describe what happened to me. It was really creepy and all that, and it's just awesome. In that regard, because of this extra system they have, it's almost like we're playing, a spooky party game when we're in the spooky stuff. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's some of the modules have very little, if none, of the spooky horror stuff. Some of them, it just really surprises you and come out of nowhere. One of the later modules in the game was so horrific. Halfway through, my wife said, "I'm going to stop playing. This is too much. This is going to literally haunt me. I have to stop playing this now. You can finish it by yourself." Wow. So, you can really get deeply involved. And for people, I have seen a lot of people say, that whole thing, it's just easier to read the card. Read the card, tell everybody what you want, because we don't want to make sure, we don't want anybody to miss any clues. I'm like, oh, you're so robbing yourself of a truly special experience of you becoming a storyteller. Because you don't say, well, let me tell you what happened to my character. You say, what happened to me? And that pulls you in a way that I've never seen in another board game, which is why it comes in on my list at number 9, Time Stories.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I never would have thought of this as a horror game, but now that you bring up everything here, it totally makes sense. Do you think it's not classified that way just because I didn't feel like they marketed it like that?
I guess, the interesting thing, when like it came out, it had the one module, which was, in an insane asylum. Right. And then there was one additional one for sale called the Marcy case. And the interesting thing is they literally tried to keep the Marcy case a secret. oh, what's happening? You're just going back to 1987. You'll find out when you get there, and then you're supposed to be surprised that it's zombies. But everybody immediately said, of course, it's zombies. And it was kind of, just from reading the back of the box, it's like, well, this kind of sounds like zombies. And that one picture kind of looks like zombies, but they were just like trying to be really coy about it. So you would be genuinely surprised. Now, my wife is surprised because she never knows what she's going to get until she sits down at the table. But
Okay.
There is no choice about it. It is 100% a horror game, and often a very horrifying game as well.
Yes, great choice. And real quick, I want to circle back to our friend Robert from Arcane Wonders. He has
has he answered the mystery?
Yes, he says green keeps the flow of the game more forward and backward on the board. Red cards will take the game motion more to the right side of the board from the player's perspective.
Okay, there you go. So people guessing on Board Game Geek were almost right, except they didn't realize the green is forward focused.
Yep. So,
interesting.
Wow. Mystery solved, friends.
All
Just like the Scooby-Doo gang, we figured out the answer to that. Great choice. That's your number 9, Time Stories. Let's move on to my number 8, shall we? My number 8. It's on the lighter end of things. It is the game Horrified from Ravensburger.
This is the one I knew there was no way this wasn't going to be on your list.
Yeah.
When you said you were going to have a silly game, I'm like, okay, he put Horrified on the list.
Yeah. So it's a different silly than Betrayal, House on the Hill. This one is very light cooperative game. At its heart, it's a pick up and deliver game. You're trying to, fight the different monsters. They have different ability. You as players have different abilities, and then the monsters. I mean, I love the little minis that they have in this game. The monsters all have different fight conditions and how to, oh wow, people have actually painted them as well.
I need to be able to. I mean, I don't want people. The minis don't come painted. It's just
they don't
pictures of their painted minis. That is very misleading. Let me find pictures that aren't of painted minis. But that's what 90% of all the pictures will be, of course.
Yeah, but anyways, this is an awesome gateway game. If I was playing games with either casual or new gamers, I'd probably pick this one over Pandemic, and the reason is Pandemic can be a lot more punishing than Horrified. Horrified's definitely lighter, easier to get into, and not as punishing as Pandemic. Pandemic, you just got those disease cubes every round, just springing out everywhere. Whereas Horrified, I think you can get a little more control, especially as new players. You're trying to figure out, hey, I need to take this item over here, or to we just saw Frankenstein's monster and the bride. I think you have to keep them apart for a while before you can actually defeat them. It's a lot of fun. I love the Universal theme. You have the Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, all the classics there. They actually have a new one that just came out, the American Monsters, which has like more modern monsters, I believe.
Oh, really? Like what?
Yeah. So they've rethemed it. I think it's Horrified American Monsters or something like that, where they have like the Chupacabra, they have Bigfoot and things like that. Some of those urban myths and urban legends and so forth. But yeah, there it is right there. American Monsters. Yeah.
I should have gone with that because that wouldn't be full of pictures of people painting their minis.
Yeah, so it's a really fun gateway style co-op game, and we actually played. Michelle and I played we had a double date about a year ago and played this game for the first time. We all really enjoyed it. There's some pictures you're throwing up there right now of the new game, American Monsters. It's a wonderful little co-op pick up and deliver monster game set in the old school Universal Monsters universe.
The original one, and then you got new stuff. I cannot deny the popularity of this game. It is such a monster hit. Actually, I didn't mean a pun there, but I
see what you did there.
That's very cunning, my friend. That, honestly. No pun intended.
No pun intended. That's a very cunning and clever move of you, my friend.
Yes, but honestly, everything I've seen in the game, you mentioned it's a Pandemic-esque game, and I would definitely agree with that, but I think it's very, very light. It is a super duper lightweight game. Yeah. Almost a trifle. I think the Flashpoint Fire Rescue actually is a heavier game than this.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and Flashpoint Fire Rescue is a really, really lightweight gateway game. So I get that it's great for gateway audiences, and we have joint custody of this list. It would not have made my top 10 just because I would sooner play the Call of Cthulhu Pandemic one, which isn't on my list.
Okay,
that's also much lighter. But I can't fault you because, oh my gosh, this game is so popular. People love it so much.
Yeah. So just to back up, I did say I said it twice. I said it was a very cunning.
No, you didn't.
I did.
What did you?
You're gonna have to watch the replay.
It's because I'm still not used to doing the pictures, and I was struggling with. Stop showing lies. I mean, folks. Sorry, let's pause for a second because the secret word is cunning.
Cunning.
And I can't even think of when you said it.
It was like about a minute ago, and I was saying it when you were talking about this, and I said, "Oh, it's a very cunning and clever thing that you did." Blah blah blah. And
oh my gosh, you even talked about me, and you did it. You were like taunting me. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. Cunning, folks, because of course, if playing Onitama, you need to be a very cunning player in this of chess-like game. And also the other game, that we didn't. Did we talk about? We didn't talk about. Folks,
we didn't even talk about it.
Folks.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, let's pause for a second to go back.
Yeah.
We talked about we're giving away 2 games this week. One of them is Onitama. The other one, for folks who are not in the United States or Canada, is Lands of Galzir. Lands of Galzir,
wow.
Which is a very big, expansive, a narrative adventure game. From designer artist Sammy Lasco, and I love Sammy. The world he's created. It's basically the Merchant Cove games, but this has turned it into like a big campaign with multiple chapters and all of that. There's an app you can use to do the keeping track of all the storytelling stuff. It had a very, very successful Kickstarter run, and when Shay covered it, and it's actually now open for what's it called, the Pledge Manager, for folks who missed it. It is available now, definitely do a search for Rahdo Galzir, and you'll be able to see Shay's wonderful run through he did. That really kind of captures. I mean, this is a wonderful gateway, family-friendly adventure. If you've always wanted to play a Descent with your kids, this is the game to get. Nice. Or Runebound, because it's just nice and easy to pick up and play. Wonderful storytelling, charming and lovely. And for everybody that are not in the United States or Canada, next week we're giving away a copy of Lands of Galzir. If you're in the United States and Canada, we're giving away the Onitama bundle, Light and Shadow, plus the original game. And so now that Ruel has said the secret word and he has put the directions on screen, what you need to do is send an email to contest@rahdo.com with the secret word in the title of that email. And the secret word, once again, thanks to my very cunning co-host, was cunning.
Yes. And be sure, friends, to in the body of the email, put the country you're in, so we know exactly where where we're going to send the game.
Yep, that's how I know which bucket to put you in, whether you're in the Onitama bucket or the Galzir bucket. Both excellent buckets to be in, I have to say. And come back next week, and we will pull 2 more names out of a hat to win all of this stuff and all of that right there. Okay.
Right. So good luck, everybody. Yes, and that was funny that we totally missed that early on. Like what happened?
We got there in the end. Sammy, thank you for donating a copy for the folks to win, and thanks again to Arcane Wonders for supporting the show. These are great giveaways, both. But now we are going to move on. Oh my gosh, I'm still. It's because I was trying to just find gameplay pictures, and I was so frustrated by that, and you just snuck right in there.
Yeah, it was a slick and cunning move on my part, but
indeed, you can stop.
We shall see.
We get it. It was cunning. Fine, understood.
Next week is a new week, man.
Yep. Am I down 3 now? I think.
Is that? Oh, actually, I'm gonna say you're down 2 because we had that 1 week where we gave it to chat because chat caught us.
Oh right, yes.
We
because we both messed up and we both said it and didn't realize we'd said it.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So shout out to chat. Let's move on. So that was my number 8, Horrified. Let's go on to number 7 on the list.
All right, number 7 is mine, and my list fell into the background. Yes, my number 7 is. Oh man, I love this game so much. London Dread. I don't know if you played this. This is from Gray Fox Games. It kind of I mean, it failed to make as big of a splash as I think it should because, oh my gosh, this game is brilliant. It is a game of cooperative game of Victorian horror, as they point out on the box. And so it's set in the the late 1800s. We are a group of folks who are traveling around London trying to investigate mysterious goings on. There's cultists who are doing all kinds of nasty things, and you know what that leads to. And so I won't have to go into too much detail there. But the thing that makes me love this game so much is when you first set it up, you've got the City of London and a whole bunch of face down cards that represent all kinds of different things that are waiting for you. Some of them are actually story. There's like a chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 card, but those are hidden amongst all kinds of encounters and opportunities that pop up. And what happens is when you start playing, you actually start a timer. You can use an app. The game has a wonderful app, or you can just use, an egg timer or your smartphone or whatever. And I think you get 5 minutes, which for people who are like, time to game. No. Don't worry. 5 minutes is more than enough time. You're never going to feel like, if I only had more time. It's only there to give you a little bit of urgency, because what you're doing is we all look at the board. We all start working simultaneously to plan and plot. What are we going to do? We can just start turning cards face up and just looking. So, look, I found the old curio shop, or oh my goodness, there's the dark alley. Who should go over there? And you can see these cards. You can see what you'll need to be able to resolve them, but nobody does anything yet. Here's the deal. We're trying to find the actual plot cards. And once we find them, we should stop looking, because the more cards that are revealed, that's more stuff we have to deal with. Because if we don't deal with everything we revealed, that raises the dread up, which will really smash us down in the final boss fight that effectively happens. So we find where all the things are. We found a bunch of other stuff that we now have to deal with. And then the brilliant part is we start planning our day. We start planning, a 24-hour period of time where we say, what am I going to do at 6 o'clock in the morning? What am I going to do at 5 o'clock in the evening? Or, 6 o'clock in the evening? Where am I going to be at midnight? And everybody is planning how they're going to travel around the city. We're all doing this, working together, of course. Because I might be really strong, or I might have allies that will help me beat up the thugs on the dock. So I say, okay, I'm going to be over there. But then I see, I'm going to need I'm going to need a particular item, and I know that has to be picked up, in the morning on the other side of town. And then you say, don't worry, Russ says, you know what? I'm going to be on the west side of town at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll be sure to get that so that by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when you go to beat up the thugs, you will have what you need. And it's awesome. It is such an interesting game, unlike anything else. And it's all because of this real-time planning and scheduling. It's basically a programming game where I'm going to program the entire 12 chapters of what I'm going to do over this 24-hour period. Some cards you can't visit unless it's day or dusk or morning or evening. And so you have to worry about that. Sometimes you have to rendezvous with other people. To do this, we both need to be here. And somebody has to go, recruit Madam Shadow and bring her with you, because there'll be the three of us to be able to deal with this card. Okay, let's all make sure we're there by 8 o'clock, because that'll give us 4 more hours until midnight to do the last little things. It's amazing. And I cannot stress how good it is. Basically, after we had the 5 minutes to reveal cards and then do all our planning, and then once the timer is done, and like I said, you don't have to worry about the timer. You'll have more than enough time to make all these plans. We then just go through, okay, what did everybody do at 3 in the morning? What did everybody do at 5 in the morning? What did everybody do at 7 in the morning? And what will inevitably happen is, oh, crap, I was supposed to pick up the thing. I'm picking it up at 9 o'clock, but it's 7 o'clock. You don't have the thing you need. And so you have to deal with the consequences of the planning you were trying to do. It's incredible. And now it's also a horror game. Although this is almost a friendly game. You could play this with a wide variety of people, except for the app. Because the interesting thing is, when you get to the main chapter stories, there's a book of plot beats, and it says, here's where you're going to go next, but here's what happened when you got to, the abandoned apartment, where the person disappeared from. And the descriptions you read in these plot beats are macabre. They are very, very dark, like super get under your skin, creepy dark. Even though the rest of the game is like kind of a high, like a high tension. Oh, we're trying to do all this planning and we're using resources and we're rolling dice. But then when you get to the story, it's like, oh, that is really proper London dread.
Wow.
It doesn't mince words. And the most important thing is, if you get the app, you can get all of those beats read to you by a professional voice actor who is amazing. I mean,
Oh,
really, some of the
that's
best
cool.
writing and acting I've heard. And I mean, Gray Fox spared no expense. And so it really ratchets up the creep factor in this game.
Nice.
So it's interesting. It goes from like these dizzying highs of like almost like an action scene. It feels like in a movie, but then, oh, now it's slowing down. And this is going to be creepy. This is going to be bad. What happens in the next chapter? And I think if I recall correctly, the game comes with either 5 or 6 campaign chapters, but they are all replayable, infinitely replayable, in the same way Pandemic is replayable. It's just, you know what the story beats are, but you still have the puzzle of how to best, canvas the city. It's fantastic. I cannot recommend it highly enough. My number was it 7, London
7.
Dread.
Wow, I have never played this game, and honestly, I've heard the title, but I never thought I thought London Dread was like the title of an album or something like that. It was, yeah. I did not know. I mean, just based on your description, I want to play this. This looks amazing.
Yep.
And why is this not more popular than?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I maybe bad timing, just didn't come out at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, I suspect. I mean, for a lot of players, any hint, any whiff of real time is an instant pass.
That's true.
Pass.
Yeah, that could be it.
And honestly, I don't know if it was necessary because, like I said, Jedi. I mean, even when they get later and they're more complicated, there's still only so many places in the city. 5 minutes is more than enough. And I think the rules even allow you to say, hey, you know what? If you want, you can just take more time. Don't worry about it. So I think maybe they did themselves a disservice by even having that at all, just to kind of ratchet up the tension a little bit. Maybe that would be my best guess.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, one problem it had a kind of a representation issue because there's only 2 female players you can play. One is a nun, and one is basically a stripper. And if you play as the blonde stripper, your character card is literally you walking around in your lingerie, and that's like, oh, that's a missed opportunity. That was kind of unfortunate. I mean, Jen always wants to be the blonde lady if she can because she's blonde. And so I remember she would actually take one of the unused Dread cards and literally cover herself up. It's like, okay, you're not dressed properly for going out on the cold, foggy streets of London. That was a bit unfortunate as well.
Yeah,
some missed opportunities. Bring it down a little for that. Someday I hope it gets a reprint and an expansion. Because, oh my gosh, it is great. London Dread.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's out of print right now, right?
I would imagine so. This game came out a while ago. But it's probably not that hard to find.
Cool.
Yeah, highly recommend.
All right. Nice. Okay. So I'm going to move on to, thank you for your number 7. I'm going to move on to number 6, which I know is going to be a little controversial. My number 6. It's a new game that I really enjoy. And the reason why it's going to be controversial, as you see, so I'll just name it. My number 6 is Whirling Witchcraft. So it's not the most hardcore horror theme. It's more of like a Halloween themey. Again, another light game. Don't worry, friends. I'm going to get a little heavier as I get my next couple of games here. But Whirling Witchcraft is lightly themed. It's horror in the sense that, hey, we were like cooking toads and stuff in our little witch's brew and concocting these little recipes and stuff. But oh my gosh. Have you played this yet? This is an absolutely... Yes, I
have. It's a brilliant design.
It's so much fun. It's a blast. It's an engine builder, really quick and fast. I would call it a filler for more seasoned gamers. But what you're doing is everyone has a workbench. You're all witches with your workbench with some ingredients that start off, and you're trying to fulfill the recipes that you have on your recipe cards. And as you do, you put the ingredients down, and then they're going to produce ingredients from the supply. And those ingredients you can either use to fulfill your recipe cards, or you put them in your cauldron. And that's the important part, because the cauldron is eventually going to get passed to your opponents, and then they have to place those ingredients that you produced onto their workbench. And if they have no space, that ingredient or those ingredients go back to you for points. And it's a race to 5 points. It's so much fun. Michelle and I love this. I loved it at, I think it's 4 players is the max. Or maybe it's 5 players, but 4 players is really chaotic and fun. The best way to describe this, Rahdo, I feel like, and I've heard this described before, as the I Love Lucy episode where it's the chocolate factory. And, you're trying to make it so your opponents have too much chocolate or too many ingredients and they fall off and you get victory points for that.
Yep. And when people think horror, they think Lucille Ball. Definitely.
Right, exactly. So
everyone in Hollywood will tell you that.
This is a super light horror themed game or a Halloween game, but gosh, I love it so much.
Honestly,
it just came out this year from AEG, and they've been knocking it out of the park with their games recently.
It's fantastic. It's a brilliant. I mean, it's hard. It's an engine building game where the fuel that runs my engine is given to me by you. And that level of interaction between players is absolutely brilliant. I would allow this if we were doing top 10 Halloween games.
Okay.
As let's see, somebody in the chat, or Kabuki Kid says, so does that mean Quacks of Quedlinburg is a horror game too? Because you're also making potions there.
There's witches and potions, sure.
There's witches.
Yeah, I knew
witches are horrible.
They're horrible, right? And think about it, like in some of those, I know they're cubes, but the green ones represent toads. Come on, you're putting toads. That's pretty scary, right? Okay, let me have this one and we'll move on. That's
it is. I questionable choice, but not a questionable design. It's a great game. Yeah,
it is a great game. Thank you. So that's my number 6, Whirling Witchcraft from AEG. Let's move on to, I guess. Don't worry, friends. I do have some scarier games here on deck, but we're gonna go to Rahdo now. You've got your number 5 game coming up.
That is correct. I'm pulling it up now, and here we go. And it's proper horror. It's Walking Dead: No Sanctuary.
Oh, nice.
Now this one blew up. This one had a very, very successful Kickstarter run. Although I think maybe it ran into some problems with Kickstarter, but I mean, it ultimately made it out. I'm going to put all that aside. I don't really know the story. Can we actually show a picture of the game instead of pictures of cards, please? There's a picture of the game. There's a picture. It's going to be another game full of painted minis. All right, folks, you'll have to remember there are not painted minis. They're gray. But where's a good picture? Oh, heck with it. This is a good picture. This is obviously set in the Walking Dead universe. It's set during the first few seasons of the TV show, and I love it. I love it so much. It does the beats you would expect. I mean, this is not a zombie side, high octane, kill all the zombies as fast as you can. This is true to the story. This is a game where, okay, the more we fight, the more we kill, the more trouble we're going to be in because the noise we make brings more and more in. We are better off just trying to avoid the shambling hordes of walkers and just try to get done what we need to get done. In fact, I mean, you will spend more time shoving zombies just to push them out of the way because you don't make a lot of noise and it doesn't take a lot of time to do it. Just so you can move on, and they will. Oh, these pre-painted minis. All right, we're going back to me.
It does look pretty awesome, though.
Walking Dead. I'm just gonna show my video, which doesn't have the miniatures. This is a prototype, but it actually does show. It lies in a different way. But anyway. So the horror stuff is very good. I mean, now to be fair, this is Walking Dead horror. Usually the zombies aren't that much of a threat. Usually it's just, okay, you got to be smart. You got to stay ahead of them. They're very slow. Every once in a while you'll get a jump scare or whatever. But really they're just kind of more of an omnipresent threat that's just pushing you through the campaign, through the adventures you're going on. The true horror, Ruel, is not the zombies. It's man. It's us. Which, of course, again, that's the whole thing. We're the Walking Dead, as Rick eventually shouts in a very dramatic moment. Because here's the thing. This is actually designed by the Sadler brothers. Was it Brady and William Sadler? This was one of their first designs, and oh my gosh, it was so amazing because it's a fully cooperative game. And the trick of it is every round, whichever player is the current leader of the group draws 2 event cards and must pick one of them to go into effect. And this is always a tough choice, and the leader cannot talk to their teammates. You truly feel alone. You feel the burden, the responsibility of leadership when you have to decide between really horrible event X or Y that gives everybody a goal that we have to do this round, but it also tells everybody how they have to behave because you can either be aggressive or passive or defensive, trying to hide. And, those come in yellow, red, and green, which might be a problem, but I think there were icons for the colorblind folks as well, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. The thing is, I make this choice. It's a tough choice. Now, in addition to whatever else we had to do, we have to deal with this event that I chose for us. And because I said I chose the aggressive card, everybody from their hand must play an aggressive card. And if you play a passive or a hiding one, that represents you, Ruel. We're not following my leadership. And I start suffering stress. And the more stress I get, the more debilitated I am, the worse I get. And the interesting thing is, I might not follow if I don't play an aggressive card because I might not have any aggressive cards in my hand. And yet I chose the event because the other event would have been even worse. And if I don't follow the orders I gave to everybody else loses trust in me. And there's trust tokens that are also a resource in this game as well. And it's brilliant. Eventually, one player will get so stressed because people keep not following orders that the leadership mantle will go to the next player, and then they'll start having to make all the decisions. But it's just so brilliant. It almost has kind of, it's a hidden communication game. It's kind of got that Hanabi vibe. I've got all my cards. please pick red. I desperately want to play a red card. Why are you saying we need to be sneaky right now? I don't care. I'm going to play this red card anyway because this is what I need to do. And then me as the leader, like, what is wrong with you? And and the bonds start breaking because we're all under this incredible stress. And meanwhile, the zombies never stop coming.
Yes.
And every time you shoot, you make noise. It's going to make even more of them come. And it's a really brilliant design. Also, not for nothing, I generally don't like roll to resolve dice, and this has roll to resolve dice, but it may be one of the best examples of it I have ever seen in any game. Really brilliantly done. All other games that want to do roll to resolve combat should study Walking Dead, No Sanctuary.
I love the tension of trying to figure out what cards to play and who's It's just like the show. There are like no good choices. We are fighting amongst ourselves, and these zombies are right outside. We're all someone's gonna get bit and someone's gonna die. And I think that's a brilliant way to tie it into the theme of the game. I missed The Walking Dead. I haven't watched it in a while. I stopped after like season 6 or something like that.
Yeah, I won't spoil anything, but I stopped after a truly monumental moment happened where a major character was taken off the table, and ever since then I was like, well, that was the character I was here for, and now that they're not here anymore, there's actually this really great YouTube channel called Man of Recaps. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Every week he does these really awesome speed recaps. He's funny. He clearly loves the show, but he's also, he pokes fun at it. So I am still completely up to date with everything that's happening in the Walking Dead universe, but I haven't watched an episode for like 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Man of Recaps is my jam for.
I might have to check that out. Yeah,
if the character that I'm talking about ever comes back, then I'll come back. But without that character, I'm just the same thing happened in the. I used to read the comic book for years too. And,
comic is great.
But that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about 10 games, not comics.
10 games. Okay.
All right.
So let's move on. That was your number 5. I'm going to move on to number 4. And I've got 2 more games on the list. I had trouble deciding which order to go. And I literally almost changed this at the last minute. But I'm going to go with my number 4, which is actually my number 2. Yeah. It is Abomination, Heir of Frankenstein.
Really? Okay. Actually, did I do a run through of that? I think I did.
Yeah, you might have.
Abomination. I'm just going to go back. I'm not going to Board Game Geek. Just going back.
Let's do. Show your.
Let's see.
This game, friends. I mean, this is truly horror. This is a fantastic worker placement game. Super heavy on the horror theme. And it's honestly, it is not for the squeamish, right? Because as you pull up the video there.
All right, so I'm going back to Board Game Geek. I could have sworn I did a run for this.
Okay.
Maybe I just can't spell Abomination. Anyway, though, that's fine. Continue.
Yeah.
Tell a story.
It is not for the squeamish. You are building your own version of Frankenstein's monster. 20 years after the infamous doctor died, right? So you're going to be the heir of Frankenstein. Can you do it? You've got your crew of scientists that you're going to send out to take actions. And you're also going to hire assistants. And what's neat about this worker placement is that scientists are a little more powerful than your assistants. So you get a better version of the action spot. Right. And what's really neat about neat in a really grotesque way is the body parts that you're collecting. These are the resources to make your monster, but they are going to eventually rot and go away. And it's so nasty. And if you're desperate, you can go out and murder people for their parts. And you can also use animal parts. Again, this is not for the squeamish. The theme is, it is really on point with the classic Mary Shelley story, right? It's so good. It's so thematic. And the games that I picked, I can tell on my list, it's all about the theme for me, right? For horror games, I really wanted these, besides the Whirling Witchcraft, the one which you let me slide on, I appreciate. Yep. But this one,
this makes up for Whirling Witchcraft. No one's going to say, you're not treating it with kids' gloves now.
Yeah, this all the kids' gloves are offs. You play, I think it's 12 rounds, and at the eventually whoever has the most victory points, you've got to. The interesting part too, when you're murdering people, I always thought this was interesting. As you murder people, you have a humanity tracker, and your humanity tracker goes down. And the more you go down on the humanity tracker, the more victory points you lose. Because come on, killing people is bad, right? And even though you're trying to create this monster, it truly is a horror game, and in all sense of the word. I mean, I love the artwork. It's very evokes that gothic theme, it's just a wonderful worker placement game. That's my number 4. Abomination, the Heir of Frankenstein.
John Flea in the chat is going to call you and says it's a little repetitive in the second half of the game. What say you?
Yeah, you know what, John, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually do somewhat agree with that. And what's cool is during the pandemic, if you paid attention to the page, I would get updates every now and then. The designer came up with official variants to shorten the game.
Okay.
And also a solo version as well. So you can play this solo now too. Which I'm really fired up about. I've downloaded the solo rules. I have not tried it solo, but yes, there are ways to shorten the game now. I forget what they did exactly, but yeah, those are official variants now on BGG. Check it out. It does shorten the game a little because it just, I played it at 4 a couple of times, and yes, it did run a little long towards the end. But it's just the theme is like the perfect scary game to play.
That's true. That's what I'd heard mostly too. That it's a bit on the long side, and so it's good that the publisher responded and addressed that. And I'm sure you can still play the epic version, or you can play the express version and get all your ghouly, ghastly. I mean, it's a gross game.
It is.
But appropriately anatomically gross. I mean, there are so many cards that are literally just morgue shots of people who died in really horrible ways, and you might have killed them. Oh, yes. This is definitely horror of the highest order, and excellent choice, especially now that you said that they did actually address some of the key issues.
Yep. All right. So let's move on. That was my number 4. Let's go on to your number 3, my friend.
Okay. Let's cleanse our palate of a truly disturbing. I'm looking into your dark soul if you enjoy this game, and try to go for here's my lighter side of horror. It is. All right. Let me see if I can find it. Yes. Ancient Terrible Things. Wait a minute. I've got my own video. I can just go to my own video. Not board game. All right. Rahdo, Ancient Terrible Things. Okay. Now, I don't know if you know this one.
I do not, but the cover looks familiar. I might have seen this in a game.
Talked about it because this is definitely a game. This is basically it's called a pulp horror because it's set in the 20s. It's kind of like Heart of Darkness. I mean, we are on a jungle boat going into the jungle, and there are unspeakable, ancient, terrible things in the jungle that we will have to deal with. All kinds of innocuous, spooky ghosts, but also almost Cthulhu-esque type creatures, although none of them are ever named by hand. And it is a competitive game where we are trying to be the best at screwing our courage to the sticking place and facing and defeating all these ancient and terrible things. And we do that through Yahtzee.
All right.
It is a very, very colorful, super colorful dice chucker. Because what'll happen is when it's your turn, you will decide one of the locations to go to where you can see what ancient terrible thing is awaiting you, and you can also see what you need to do it. Like you get a straight or a full house of dice or a pair or 2 pair or whatever it might be. Yahtzee-ish kind of stuff. And but the important thing is at each location, there's also a special action you get to do. And when you are deciding where to go, you're like, oh, I could totally deal with that one, but I don't want to do that action. I want to do this action over here. But the card over there, there's no way I could beat that one. And so right off the bat, you're having to make tough choices. It's another entwined drafting style decision where, okay, I got to make a compromise. Am I going to focus on the action, or am I going to focus on the ancient terrible thing I'm going to try and fight? But anyway, once you get there and after you do the action, you start fighting. And so you have a collection of dice that are based on your items and what character you are and all that. And they're different colors that represent the source they came from. But the important thing is you roll all those dice trying to get that straight or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, okay, I didn't quite get it. Okay, and you think, oh, Yahtzee, no problem. I'll just take these cards and re-roll them. No. When you re-roll, you have to re-roll everything, which is terrifying. Because here's the thing. If you don't quite make it, if you don't defeat the ancient terrible thing, which you often won't, you can instead take those dice and there's a menu of things you can do. Okay, well, I didn't win, but I'll spend it to get some bravery tokens, which means I can do re-rolls because I think it's the bravery tokens that you can spend them to re-roll individual dice. Or no, that's the focus. If you earn focus, you can start doing re-rolls of just specific dice instead of all the dice. So it becomes more like regular Yahtzee, but then you're burning through all your focus. Bravery, you don't even have to roll the dice. If you have enough bravery, you can just defeat the thing straight out. And then there's treasure tokens, which let you go to a shop to get more items, to be able to roll more dice and manipulate the dice and do all kinds of stuff. It's a low pressure game. The art is evocative and moody, but also kind of cartoony at the same time.
Yeah.
And and so I think this is definitely something you could play as almost a family weight game. It's just a blast. The first time I remember, this was years ago. The first time we ever played it, after we played our first game, Jen said at the time, "This is the best game we played in months." And we have kept it all these years. It got an expansion, which was also excellent, and made it an awesome travel game as well. So you don't have to take the board with you everywhere. I cannot recommend it highly enough. It has just enough atmosphere, just enough spookiness. It's definitely a horror setting, but really, it's just an incredibly fun, one of the best Yahtzee-inspired modern Euro games of all time, as far as I'm concerned. It has made my top 10 travel games. It has made my top 10 dice games on previous top 10s. I will not stop talking about it until everybody knows its name. My number 3, Ancient Terrible Things.
I need to play this. Just first glance, I've never played it. It seems like something I'd love. It reminds me, just based on description, just seeing it, of Elder Sign. Do you remember Elder Sign?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes, Elder Sign is also kind of that same vibe, a horror setting, Yahtzee type stuff. But there is so much more going on. Elder Sign is nice. But it seems too hard until you master it, and then it's too easy. This is a really fun competitive game that is just super engaging from start to finish.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely need to look this one up. Awesome. Cool. All right. So I'm going to move up to the top of my list, which is actually the number 2 here.
We're on to number 2. Okay.
Yes, our number 2.
And get ready to start searching.
This is the one I struggle with. I wasn't sure where to place it, if it should be my number 1 or my number 2 on my list. But it's number 2. It is Dead of Winter, a Crossroads game. A classic. It's a classic for me. This is one of an early game for me when I got into the hobby that just blew me away at the time. It's a cooperative game, but there could be a traitor as well. And it reminds me of what you were just talking about with the Walking Dead game, right? You were out there trying to survive, and it ultimately pits you against the other players because you're trying to scrounge for food, supplies to make it through another night. You got the zombies, the zombie standees knocking on the door, ready to say hello and bite you and all that. In
theory, we're all on the same side. We're all in it together, except one of you isn't.
Exactly. And that's always a neat thing too. Like the way that they set it up in setup, like you pass out these cards and you secretly find out, are you a traitor or not? So sometimes there are no traitors, but it's fun it's funny when there's no traitor and everyone thinks there is, and they start pointing you out. They can exile you out of the group. It's like, wait, I'm not a traitor. What are you doing? The characters are really neat. They all have different, things going on. The Sparky the Wonder Dog. There it is. I love Sparky the Wonder Dog. He's great. And you got the Crossroads cards. Now, not all of them.
Yes, talk about that. That's very important.
They've got the really neat. Yeah, they've got these really neat choices, right? You're going to pull one up every round, and sometimes they're character specific or event specific. Sometimes they're not, and you have to make a choice. Are you going to do this or that? And just like we were just talking about, there's never a good choice. Sometimes they're clear cut, but usually it's like, oh, I'm going to lose this or lose that. I love this game. Ever since I played it, some of my best gaming memories are from this game. Yeah. When I was exiled as a traitor, when I wasn't, and the guy who was a traitor was the one that led the charge against me. Those type of moments in gaming are special to me. You remember those moments, and Dead of Winter, all the times I played have all kinds of fun moments like that. So that's my number 1 horror game of all time, Dead of Winter.
And an excellent choice. I can't imagine anybody could fault you, even if people don't like the game. But I mean, I've never played it. I've always heard that to get its full effect, you need to have at least 3 people.
Yes.
Because it does have 2-player rules. And I think they even try to replicate the traitor mechanism somehow in the 2-player through like a prisoner's dilemma kind of thing or something like that. But I never tried it. And I've always just heard, no, don't even bother unless you've got 3 or 4 or 5 people, because you need that paranoia.
It definitely
really come alive.
Yeah, no, I have actually played this as a co-op. You could do the cooperative game where it's without the traitor. It's a 2-player version.
Yes.
And it was fun. It was fun. But for the true dread, as you're saying, you really do need at least 3 players. I've always played it like 4 or 5. It's wonderful. Just that traitor, like you really don't know. It's got that paranoia set into the game. Oh, it's fantastic. Absolutely.
It is definitely something I would love to try someday.
One of these days.
Because that's a game experience I don't normally get to have. That level of interaction and interplay. The social dynamics. All right. An excellent number 2. All right.
Thank you. Let's go on to the top of your list, my friend.
I'm feeling kind of bad because my number 1 I think is going to be a little bit more controversial, but what the heck? Let me go on ahead and find it. This is One of the new. This is the second newest game on the list. You win with Whirling Witchcraft, and it's gonna get a lot of mixed feelings. People love it or hate it. It's my number one, Etherfields.
Oh,
Etherfields is, I mean, there's no choice about it. This is definitely a horror game. Players are amnesiac characters who are lost in a surreal and definitely super, super creepy dream world. They don't know where they are. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they're trying to do. And over the course of many adventures, exploring just an incredibly wide variety of interesting dream scenarios. You know what? I'm going to go back to my video because I don't know what people are going to take pictures of. Rahdo, Etherfields. There we go. We're just going to put that up. Not my prototype list because I did the follow-up. Let's see. And it is a brilliant, brilliant game. It's a deck builder at its heart. We should probably just identify that right out of the deck. Your character is defined by all these different cards you can get and you can earn over the course of the game. And you will take this deck through multiple adventures, through dozens and dozens of hours worth of play if you stick with it. And it's constantly growing and shrinking and kind of tightening. And the deck building is really, really good. One of the key elements of the game is you're unlike Dominion, you're not just restricted to the cards you have in hand, because a lot of times you can spend to lock these cards into place, so you will keep them at the ready through multiple sessions. So you have a lot of control over your deck. You do a lot of really interesting things there. And so the deck building, as far as I'm concerned, is top-notch stuff. The world itself, there's two halves of the game. There's when you actually go into a dream, you have a storyline, you have to interact with people or monsters or spirits or all kinds of stuff. Sometimes they're terrifying. Like one of the first missions we ever went on, it was, if I recall correctly, it was an abandoned shopping mall. The power was out. There were shadows everywhere. You couldn't see more than one tile away. And there were just constantly glowing eyes in the darkness, and every once in a while they would just reach out and grab you and try to pull you into the darkness. And as we moved forward, we couldn't see where we had come from anymore, and we just went deeper and deeper into the dark. And Jen is like, this is freaking me out. I am not enjoying this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible. Because the drama and the moodiness and the atmosphere. And then the gameplay is really sharp too. Sometimes they're really weird, odd, surreal dreams. Like there's this one where you go to a mud making factory that is broken down, and the weird inhabitants who are creepy on themselves are like, how can we get the mud working? Well, the world will not have mud. So there's a wide variety of things you do. That's one half of the game. The other half of the game, I don't know if you played old classic NES and Super NES Japanese role-play adventures like Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior, where you make it to the dungeon. That's what we're here to do, and fight the boss. But in the rest of the time, you're walking around on the overworld and just having random encounters with monsters. That this game replicates that, because as you are in the Etherfields, this dream world, and you're going from the city to the countryside, because I know we got to get over there because that's where our dream is going to be. You have a series of little like mini missions. Let's see, the dreams are the main things. I forget. Are they called haunts? Are that what the little ones are called, or slumbers, or are the smaller ones? And these are little like 2 or 3 minute long mini adventures where you will most coolly run into characters that you had previous dealings with. I mean, you go in, you make your decisions in a big dream, it destroys the world, it saves the world, but inevitably new characters will show up that will continue to haunt you and follow you, or maybe help you, depending on what you did, as you then travel the rest of the world trying to get to the next chapter to unlock more of who we are. The art is fantastic. The miniatures, especially if you get the deluxe miniatures, which came spot painted, which I had. I mean, oh my gosh, they were so great. Some people vehemently hate this game because of that overworld system. And they're like, I don't want to have to run into the wailing child that keeps haunting me because I failed to save them in this other chapter. And now, I mean, I get into that. It's like, oh, I'm having to face my demons because this came about because of my choices. Other people are like, I don't want to do this again. So it's interesting. Like you talked about with Horrified, the developers have released a new module you can download and print out for free. It's just one piece of paper you have to print out that gives you a way to fast forward through the overworld modules if you don't want to do that, and you can just get right to the adventures. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it because I think the adventures are really great, especially once you start unlocking some cool features that let you interact with them in ways that are all about you exercising empathy, which is another thing I love about this game. This game is full of moments where, oh, hey, Ruel, there's a dark hole in the wall. Do you stick your hand in it? And in any game, you say, well, of course I do. I've played adventure games. Yeah, you touch everything. You flip every switch. You open every door. Don't do that. In this game, there are often moments where you are given a choice that is just a bad choice. And if you could read the room and understand, yeah, you know what? Nothing good is going to come from me sticking my hand in there. I think I'm going to walk away. And that just ends up creating more paranoia. Well, what if I had stuck my hand in? What if that was really important? I'll never know because we finished that adventure. And you're constantly having to make choices that feel more real and natural and less scripted, even though it's entirely a scripted experience. I think it's amazing. You can watch my half-hour-long final thoughts where I try to address all the complaints various people have had about it. I think there's just a lot of fundamental misunderstandings about what makes this game so special, and that's why it's my number one, Etherfields.
Wow. And I noticed when you first clicked on the link, this was from the designer of This War Is Mine. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, and I know how much I know that you have the utmost respect for that game. You hold that in high esteem as well. So that's
Yeah, I mean, this War of Mine is amazing because of how it treats, the subject matter. This game has the same reverence for its subject matter, and it's just a really creepy, spooky horror game.
Nice. Yeah, that's something I definitely want to experience one of these days. And this is the newest game on the list, is that right?
No, I think you're Whirling Witchcraft because it only came out a couple of months ago.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Friends, thank you again. We ran a little long this time, but that's okay. We love talking about games. We love sharing our top 10 horror games. Someone, I got to mention this in chat. Someone mentioned Nemesis, and I know for a fact that would make it on my list, but I haven't played it.
You just haven't played it yet?
I have not played it yet, but it looks awesome. Aliens on a spaceship. Come on. That's
I've heard nothing but good things about Nemesis. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned it because next month, it's too bad we didn't quite work out for this month. Next month, Shay is going to be doing a run-through on the channel for it.
That's right.
With the big expansion that's coming.
Yeah.
So you will be able to find out soon because Shay does a great job.
Yes. And also there's another game that I'll be playing real soon. I'm going to shout out my own channel on Twitch here. I'm going to be playing the Night Cage real soon. I've been pumped about that game.
I saw several people are mentioning Night Cage in the chat. Yes. Yeah.
And other games, there's so many. And again, Fury Dracula would have been on my list as well. It didn't make the cut this time. That's another wonderful game. And actually,
Fury Dracula is a terrible 2-player game.
It doesn't work at 2.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it does not work
I can't recommend it. But it's good at what it does, but just you need 4 players.
Absolutely. And one of the a little campier game that I like is Camp Grizzly. If you ever played that one's sort of like Friday the 13th style game. But so many games out there, folks. And we've narrowed it down to our favorite, our top 10 here. Thank you again for hanging out with us as we do this. Anything else before we get out of here, my friend?
No, I think not. I just took and it looks like Alien is still standing strong with 49% of the votes. The Shining at number 2, It at number 3, and Get Out at number 4. You folks have to get out. You voted incorrectly.
I need to get out and watch that movie. That's
you do. There you go.
Okay. So yeah, again, folks, thanks again for joining us. Next week we'll be back with another great top 10. And would you like to take us out, my friend?
Yes. Thanks everybody so much for watching and listening. Because after I'm done here, I'll upload it to podcast.rahdo.com. And most importantly, thank you to the sponsors of the show who make this possible, Arcane Wonders. Have a nice day, everybody. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.